welcome to Dream It, Dare It, Do It, Live the Life You Want, a podcast where we talk about, our natural essence, our true essence, and how can we live the life that we want based on that. And today I have a special guest called Stef Cybichowski. Did I do that right?
Yeah, pretty good.
So, Stef, I've already posted a coming soon about you. You were my first series of coming soon guests. So people have heard a little bit about you, but do you want to share a little bit about who you are and where you're from, just for our listeners?
Okay, so yeah, Stef Cybichowski. I live in the UK. I have been a principals practitioner for about, 8 years now. And I get to play all over the world with, businesses and with mental health charities, with schools. And I get to share this understanding with so many incredibly beautiful people. And it's the best thing I ever did. So I get to share it today with you, Jasmine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there are two things I'd like to talk to you about. The first one being, what is your take on living the life you want? Like, I'm assuming that you are presently living the life you want. And like when you're talking to your clients or even thinking about it for yourself, like, what do you think about living the life you want?
Such a good question. So it seems to me that as human beings and as spiritual beings, we are living right in the fold, right in the edge between the two. And it often feels to me that, and this happened to me as well, is that when I was a lot younger, I became conditioned to what society and my family and my culture told me about me. The things that they would say about me that I was good at and that I was bad at, things that I should do and things that I shouldn't do. And I grew up with this idea of what was possible for me. And the way I think of it now is like we build ourselves this little prison of possibility, this prison of ideas of who we are and what life is. And we lovingly decorate it with, yeah, I can do that, or I think I can do that, and I shouldn't do that. But we live in this tiny little space of what's possible, what we think is possible. And for me, coming across the principles, I began to see how I was always being guided by life. When I was in trouble, I would have whispers of the universe telling me which way I should go, how I should navigate, whatever. And for a lot of the time, I didn't take any notice of the universe and what it said, because I didn't know what it was. But when I came across the principles, I began to see how life, although sometimes it didn't look like that, I began to see how life had been holding me. It had been supporting me. It had been showing me how to live. Now, I was still living in my little prison, but when I began to see just how kind the design is, how beautifully we're made, and how incredibly intelligent the operating system is, the energy is behind life that's running us, that's running through us, the energy running through us. I began to see that life was also showing me in the things that I felt inspired by in the moment, things that I felt passionate about, things that I love doing. I began to see that life was showing me what it wanted to create through me, as opposed to me being the one creating my life. I began to see how for so long I at times in my life I'd resisted the urge to do what I love to do because I thought it wasn't right, because I was living in this little prison that would say, no, you can't be a musician, or you can't be a coach, because you have to earn a living and you need to earn people's respect, and so you need to do a job that's worthy. So I began to see how I had instead of flowing with the river of life, and the river of life, to me, we know when we're in the flow because of how it feels. I began to see how I'd been resisting that and how that felt when I was resisting it. I've had some jobs and some parts of my life that have been less than happy, shall we say. And I began to see that although that's not a reason for not doing those things, it feels much we're designed to express. We are designed to create. We cannot stop creating because we are of creation. And when we try and stop that happening, we feel it. So for me, that feeling of what lights us up, that feeling, it might be just a little feeling of, oh yeah, that would be cool. Or it might be, oh yeah, that would be amazing to do that. The feeling that comes with it, to me, is what is telling me when I'm in alignment with what life wants to create.
Yeah, I like that. When it's not feeling good, we're disaligned.
Yeah.
And we're not, there's a difference, because I'm like, what occurred to me as soon as I said it, I was like, yeah, but sometimes we don't feel good because we're sad, and it's actually the the right decision. You know, like, I'm thinking, what occurred to me is when I broke up with my boyfriend. Don't know why. It's been a long time, but that kind of occurred to me. And it was kind of like when, because like I'd been with this gentleman for a long time, and I was just miserable, you know, like I mean, I didn't have this understanding back then, but I was unhappy. And it was all about him. It was all his fault. You know, I was unhappy because he was like this, because he did that, because this, that. And even back then I knew that's not right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, he is who he is. He's doing what he's doing. And he hasn't changed. I've been with him for 7 years. He's been like this. Like, what's the, like, why does it all of a sudden bug me?
Yeah.
I mean, he never used to pick up his dishes. Why am I now all of a sudden upset with him and thinking I'm miserable because he's not picking up his dishes? What is that about? Like, it just didn't work with me, you know? And I suffered through it the whole time. Like, you know, like it was a suffering, you know, because of the thinking was always really, I was perpetuating this, you know?
Yeah.
I was making him suffer through it all, you know, constantly screaming at him and bitching at him and having the sarcastic comments. And yet we were the best of friends. Like, I remember, like, this relationship was like, I had the most fun. We laughed together. We played together. But I think it was just time. It was just like, there was just like, I'd come to an end, you know?
Yeah.
And you know, I would suffer through the dishes and the this and the that. But the day that I saw that I was now looking to other men, you know, like I was no longer looking at him. I was looking somewhere else. That kind of like triggered something in me. Like, I wouldn't leave him because he doesn't pick up his stuff. I wouldn't leave him because he watches TV. I wouldn't leave him for all these stupid little things that I thought of. But me actually going like this and looking somewhere else, that kind of like triggered. It was like, hey, if you're at that point, it's not fair. Like, I loved him too much to do it. And I broke up with him and I cried my brains out. Like, a very, very long time, I cried my brains out. And people were like, you're the one who broke up. Why are you crying? You know, and it didn't make any sense to me back then. But looking back, I could see that life had me. Like, you know, even though the feeling wasn't a feeling of happiness. It wasn't a feeling like when we're talking about the feeling, and you could, you know, tell me what you think about this, but it's not a feeling of, oh, I feel good now. This is the right way to go. It's not that kind of feeling. Don't mistake it that way. It's a feeling of knowing. You just know. Intellectually, you get that you might, you know, be in pain for a little bit, but you just know.
Yeah. I think there's as human beings, you know, a saying, or spiritual beings having human experience, we get to be both. And we're right on that edge. And I love what you're saying about the sadness. Because there's something about showing up with our whole self, you know, with our sadness and our joy, with our anger and our love. And I think what I'm hearing in what you're saying is the sadness is a beautiful human emotion. And sometimes we can judge it and make it mean something. See, I think that sadness is, for me, another aspect of love, just as kindness is, just as compassion is, just as passion is. I think sadness is it's like an expression of grief, but it's of love, you know. And what you're saying about that feeling of knowing is absolutely true. And I think that what happens is when we go from the noise of our moment by moment thinking about us and about what's happening and about what we want and what we don't want, the moment we go and touch that deeper place, the deeper dimension of us that is always pure, that's always untouched by what happens to us in life, the space beneath that and before our thinking, that has that quality of, as you say, knowing. That has the quality of love and compassion for ourselves and for whoever we're with. And I think that is our true selves. That is our true essence, as you said. And that's when we know, albeit there's sadness, we know what needs to be done. We know where the next step is. And there is so much kindness to that. There is so much, yeah, there's so much beauty in the design. Because it comes with a feeling, and that feeling is, it might not be joy and inspiration, but there is a knowing to it. And I feel that sadness is a dimension of love.
Well, that's a beautiful way to look at it, actually. You know, off camera, you and I were talking about how, you know, I used to, like, my preferences in my life used to basically lead me, you know, and they would stop me from beautiful things because I didn't want to feel sadness. You know, like, my preference is I do not want to feel sadness.
Yeah.
But the fact of the matter is, one of the things that I did see a little while back is that the things that I would stop myself from feeling, you know, the things that I thought were negative, and that I stopped myself from feeling, then, like, the negative has a positive. So the more that I would invest my time and energy on not feeling something negative, I didn't realize how I was also at the same time not feeling the positive. And that was that was amazing to see for me. Like, and I remember I was watching something that Dr. Phil said. I was watching a show and Dr. Phil said, no matter how flat a pancake is, there's two sides, you know. He's from Texas. And that kind of like hit me. No matter how flat a pancake is, there's two sides. And I really like, and it was funny because I kind of like integrated it. And I was like, okay, so if I'm sad, then there's also a happiness. And then if there's anger, there's also joy. And like, I was just like playing with all of it, and it just brought me to it, you know?
Yeah.
And I think there's and that's one of the things that we also were talking off camera. So I'm bringing it back, people. We were talking about how I was explaining how I get in my head, and I literally think something, and then I see that I'm thinking something, and then I judge myself for thinking that thing, and then I judge myself for judging myself that I'm judging myself for thinking that thing, and I get into this loop, and I totally lose my presence. Like, I mean, it's just this and it never ends. I mean, unless I can literally go, oh yeah, oh, I'm in my head. And one of the things that you said was like something to the effect that we kind of like, we don't honor the seeing.
Yeah.
So talk a little bit more about that.
Well, I remember Elsie Spittle saying a while back, I heard her say that when we've been in the three principles for a while, we think that we should not necessarily get lost as often as we do. I do every day, you know, and so, you know, so we go through this thing about when we get lost, we suffer, and then when we notice that we're lost, we kind of go, oh damn, I've done it again, you know, I've done it, I should know better than that. So it becomes, it's not only that we're lost, but we're now going down the rabbit hole with thinking on top of thinking. What does that mean about me? What have I learned? You know, it's just not helpful, you know. So her idea was, no, don't honor the getting lost. Don't focus on that. Honor the seeing. Honor the noticing. And I thought that was really cool. And I think that, you know, when we talk about noticing, for me, it feels like a very normal word, you know, it feels like, and it is a very ordinary thing to happen. But it seems to me when we notice something, when we notice that we've got lost, it's actually a shift in consciousness. We've actually shifted. So we now have a perspective on something we did not have perspective on 5 minutes earlier. When we celebrate that, then the focus shifts completely. There's no rabbit hole.
That's gorgeous. So it's you know, when I started this podcast, it was like, I want to have these great conversations, which I'm having these great conversations. And I really started to see that I love life. You know, I just love life. And I notice things, and I notice that there are areas in my life that I'm not looking at anymore, and that I'm thinking, why, you know, so I went into this inquiry. And one of the things that like I told you, I'm going to need is a body. And subjects that I don't talk about are things like weight loss. Even as I'm telling you this, I'm really seeing that I can't believe that I'm actually going to do episodes about moving and eating and weight loss and stuff, because this is not something I want to talk about. It's a taboo subject in the Jasmyne mind. But I collaborate with Rob Cook, which is, you know him, he's a personal trainer. And we have these, we have a lot of conversations about movement. And so I'm going to share the conversation that we just had actually yesterday together. We were talking about this, and you'll see it's really me trying to see something. Hello, everybody. We are here today on a new segment of Move the Way You Want, Just Move. And Rob and I were just talking off camera, and we were talking about, spring and summer's coming. Yay!
All right.
And of course, the thoughts are coming about, what is my body looking like? And I got to lose weight and all of this stuff. And so, we're going to talk about that today. And what I was, and maybe we'll talk about that a little later on also throughout the next few episodes. This might be like a loaded topic. Just saying. So one thing that showed up for me, like I really, I want to talk about moving, and I want to talk about weight loss. And then I have a lot of thinking around weight loss. Obviously, I've thought about weight loss a lot in my life. Mm-hmm. Still doing it. And like the thing that I saw was, yesterday I was kind of like shopping. I was like, oh, I feel like having this nice top. I feel like having a nice sexy top and all of this. And then I was looking at the tops, and then I was looking at my body, and I was like, yeah, the top looks good on that girl, but it's never going to look good on me. And now I have to lose weight in order to be able to fit on the top, in the top, and look good. So what I'd like to hear your take on is like this is how I feel. I feel like if I start, wanting to lose weight because I want to look good, I feel like I'm never going to make it. Just because, when I was 16, I wanted to lose weight because I wanted to look good. And, at 30, I found pictures of me when I was 16, and I was like, holy cow, that was a hottie, man. I was like so cool, cute, And then when I was 50, I was looking at pictures of me when I was 32, and I was like, oh man, that was a good looking girl. And, so I'm never happy about it. Right. So I just kind of like, I don't want to start the conversation about losing weight to look good. Yeah. Yeah. So here I am, and I'm shutting up now because the rest is just a lot of thinking.
I love what you were saying, because it's how a lot of people look at weight loss. I really don't talk about weight loss much anymore, though, just because of what I felt the space it provided for my clients or for people I was working with on it. And that was, again, like everything else. There's something wrong. I got to change. I got to do something different. And it's backwards. It's perceived as going backwards. Negative means I got to reduce. That at some point I was better, and now I got out of shape, or I gained this much weight, so I'm falling apart. Now I got to go back because I'm broken or whatever. And that was when I really paid attention to numbers. But now that I'm more concerned about the quality of your body composition overall, I don't really worry about weight loss, as I will get clients to buy into gaining more muscle. By gaining more muscle, you're going to lose fat mass. right? Because a lot of times when I get a person to gaining more muscle, their body shapes and tone, where the number on the scale may not go down, but their clothes are falling off their bodies, or they shape or appear significantly different, even though the number is still the same, but the quantity, the fat-free mass and the fat mass has completely changed. So I love the conversation. What you started with is, before we do any movement or before we get into anything like this, the space we come from is very important. Most of the time, we'll use the term weight loss because we're there with it. Most of the time, weight loss is a load of thinking, a mode of thinking that's attached to some other things that just aren't going well. You know, or it could be attached to a health scare or risk. I'm doing a presentation, putting a presentation together where I'm looking at the amount of people that preventable diseases affect in the United States of America. And I was talking to somebody about it. It was like, oh, well, those aren't really bad numbers. I was like, it's preventable diseases. So any number, one is bad because it's preventable. That's like saying, oh, well, all those people died from preventable gunshot wounds. Well, wait, why didn't we prevent the gunshot wounds then? Why didn't we just stop that then? So they didn't have to die. So, you know, so I love that about the space, because it's very important on how you start this journey and not believing it's linear, right? Your life got to a point where you didn't move as much. And in that lack of movement, your calorie intake probably increased and you held on to more fat. Okay, now let's get you moving where you don't hold on to as much.
Even your calorie intake didn't even need to increase.
Yeah, exactly. That's a very good point. The lack of movement is where this takes place. And I use calorie intake because that's where I like to start people. If you haven't moved in a while, then I'll start people on just doing something different in how they eat and making small adjustments throughout their life. Because it's like a car that's been under the tarp for a couple years, right? You go out there, you can't just crank that car up if it's been off for a couple of years and take off driving. There's some dry rot on the tires. There are some webs in the engine. You might even need to flush the fluids. But once you do a few of those things, the car kind of gets back into a rhythm and hits the highway and purrs like it always did, just like the body will. You know, start adjusting, increasing your hydration, removing certain foods from, you know, little by little as best you can, doing a little bit, standing up a little bit more through the day, walking more, so taking some of those conveniences away, just to prepare the space, the mind, at how you are going to approach building more lean muscle mass rather than losing weight.
Yeah. Yeah. It's really interesting because, you know, I've been working, and one of the things that I've been doing is taking these segments that we do and taking them out of the whole episode and making them just a segment to put them on YouTube. And I was re-listening to a segment that we did, and it's funny because it like in there you were just like, well, it's just about any movement works. Like, that's what you had said to me. Any movement works. And one thing that I started to see, it's all about observing what you do. In my opinion, like, it's like, if you can freaking just look at what is it that you're doing right now, and then take away the emotion, take away all of the negative thinking that you have about it, and just seeing truly what you're doing, then it's gonna make a difference, right? And after I re-listened, because I actually recorded it and then I re-listened, and it's so funny, right? Like, we can do something, be present, but not be present. And I know that in these conversations I get in my head, as you're talking, I'm like there's just so much shit. So I was re-listening, and I noticed that when I wake up in the morning, I get up and my body feels pretty good. And I get up and I go do my things, and I'm just doing my things. And then all of a sudden I go and sit down. And I sit down on my sofa, and then I just veg there for a little bit, which is something that I love to do, right? I love vegging. I'm a veg. I've got the vegging art, to a T. But the other day I was like, well, I don't have to sit down to look at my phone notification.
Yeah.
Like, so it just started just sitting up, and I was just like swaying, and I was just like, I could almost hear your voice in my head going, any movement counts. And I was just like, okay, maybe I could broom here. There's like some sweeping to do here. And, I didn't sit down right away. And I was just like, it was a baby step, but I was so proud of myself for having just noticed.
Yeah. That's I don't know if it's ever happened to you, but a lot of my clients, I'll say something like, just walk for me for about 5 or 10 minutes. And they'll be like, that's it? Oh, okay. And we'll come back and I'll be like, hey, did you give me my 5 or 10 minutes? They're like, yeah, but I went like an hour. Yeah, but I went like 30 minutes. Yeah, I went about 45 minutes. So yeah, I went for 2 hours. I was like, oh, okay, thank you. They was like, oh, you gonna give me longer next time? I'm like, no, because next time you won't do it. It was me saying start 5 or 10 that got you going, because that seemed obtainable to you. I knew you were going to go over. That's how the body is designed. Once you start moving, it's going to look for more ways to move. So when you stood up and didn't just go to vegging out, your body was like, hey, I like this movement shit. Let's broom. I don't even know if you like brooming or not, but you thought to do it. Like, it's a movement, right?
Yeah.
You just, that's how it works. It's so funny. I was just saying this last weekend. I got it from listening to the way Michael was talking about coaching, but healthy living is an art. There's science to losing weight, right? There is a formula, an equation, a mathematical, whatever you want. There's science to it. But if it was that easy, everybody would have it. So it's got to be something on this side with the thinking and the art and the way your life works for it and the way it fits for you that is up for exploration. Because it's also, most of the science that we have are based off professional athletes. That's who we use to make the metric. Professional athletes, people who get paid to either run into each other at high speed collision, play a sport, do a weight lift. Like, that's who we measure it off. That's who we look at. It's so funny. We don't look at doctors and go, I want to be shaped just like that doctor right there. Right? Like, oh my God.
Some doctors aren't shaped very well either.
Exactly. But that's my point though. Oh, that dentist is perfectly shaped. That's the body I want. That dentist right there. Nope. We go to the professional athletes. Yeah. The fitness models it's just hilarious.
Who put in more than 10,000 hours at just doing this. Yeah. Okay, so guys, we're going to leave you with that. We're just going to leave you today. This is what we're going to leave you with. I mean, I know we've talked about it in a prior episode, but just look at yourself. Truly look at yourself. What are you doing?
Yeah.
And don't think about your calories. Don't think of what you're eating. Don't think about doing a gazillion exercises. Just look right now at what you're doing and see, what kind of movement you could just add.
Yeah.
What do you think?
I love it. Look at your space and see what it can hold. I love it.
Fantastic.
Look at your space and see what it can hold. And if it only can hold 5-10 minute walks, let that space hold it then.
Yeah.
But don't try to, the space is only equipped for 5 or 10 minutes right now because it hasn't been something you've done and you're trying to fit 3-hour workouts in it. That doesn't work. So just look at your space, like you said. Look at your space, see what it can hold, and then come back for another episode so we can help you feel it.
All right, guys. Thank you, Rob. We're gonna continue this conversation in the next episode.
Wow. I love Rob.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's He's a good egg. Yeah, so it was really aligned with what we were talking about, right? It's like,
lots of noticing.
yeah. What did you did this do anything for you? Like, did you hear anything? I feel like
Yeah,
I saw you take notes.
I did. I just wrote down. There's the thinking that we have around weight loss and around what we need to do in order to be our ideal weight or our ideal shape, and it looks hard, you know, as you were saying and as Rob was saying, it kind of looks hard. But then the way that Rob was describing it, I saw that the body is designed to return to equilibrium, and the body will tell you what it needs. So he was saying just walk for 5-10 minutes. Once the body starts moving, it's going to find more ways to move. That's the body, that's being in alignment with life, and it's giving us what we need to come back to stable, to come back to equilibrium. Like our mind, in exactly the same way, our mind, life is constantly inviting us to come back into equilibrium after a thought storm, you know, after what might seem a difficult situation. If we allow it, if we allow the system to take over without us trying to shake the snow globe, trying to fix it, then it automatically comes back into equilibrium. And I love that about what Rob said, because that's what the body will do if we allow it. And what you said, if we just notice what's happening. The noticing is allowing the body, allowing the system to do what it needs to do. And that feels really simple.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's like the second you say the words, in my case, and I'm sure in a lot of other people's cases, I'm sure I'm not alone in this, but you know, we hear the words weight loss, and it's not 2 words. It's not, you know, some 15 letters. I don't even know. I'm just making stuff up, but it's not those letters. It's like everything we've ever thought, everything we've ever read, everything. That's what comes with it. And depending on, you know, how much time you've been listening to it, you know, I've been told, you know, I was 7 years old and people were telling me that I was chubby. And I started looking at it back then, and I'm like 51 now. So there's a lot of looking at it.
It's what we were saying earlier. It's a lifetime's worth of conditioning that builds this prison of possibility for us. We think, I'm never going to be able to get back to the weight that I want to do, because I've never been able, you know, for the last however many years, it's never happened. And that thinking just kind of takes over. We don't allow the system to settle. We don't allow the equilibrium and the stability to return, because we're stopping it with this.
Yeah. Wow. Stef, this was a great conversation. Thank you.
Oh, Jasmine, bless you. Thank you. I've really, really enjoyed it. I really have. It's so good seeing you again.
Yeah, same here. Same here.
Yeah.
So if people would like to hear a little bit about you, like how could they reach you? Do you have a website? I think you do, right?
Okay, so I have a website which is about to be launched.
Okay.
And it's called Your Unlimited Potential, all one word, .co.uk. And I have a Facebook page called Your Deepest Potential.
Okay. Okay, very cool. Well, thank you so much for accepting the invitation.
It's
And
been an absolute pleasure.
I'm going to ask you one last thing. This is one thing that I do at the end of the episode is if you could have a nugget of wisdom, would you have just a little nugget for our people?
I'm going to say honor the noticing. Honor when you see your thinking. Honor when you come back into equilibrium. Forget everything else. Just honor that and you'll be fine.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. Everybody, I'm closing this up and I'm telling you, just dream it, dare it, do it. Live the life you want.
Bless you.
Bye.
Thank you.